Coming up on Beyond the Rock News. Nurses have been working day and night to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Nurses that work for Mercy Health being some of them. Find out about what their role is and how they are doing during this time.
The COVID-19 vaccine has been in the works for months. Finally, the public has access to get this potential life-saving shot. Beyond the Rock learned how the distribution of the shot has been and what it means for those who get it.
With new guidelines to follow, students have had to adapt to new changes in the classroom. Coming up, we'll find more about how the special needs program has adjusted to this pandemic.
Finding a safe way for student athletes to play their designated sport is one of the school's top priorities. Rapid testing has been a vital step in making this happen. We'll take a closer look into this process. Stay tuned.
Beyond the Rock News starts now.
Welcome to Beyond the Rock News. I'm Hannah Butzer.
And I'm Anna Carpenter. COVID-19 has affected everyone on different levels. As the world has entered months of the pandemic, new adjustments and changes in day-to-day life has had to be changed.
New normals from life in the classroom to sports has been a constant change. Even finding ways to protect yourself and those around you have been an adjustment.
Regardless of who you are, we've all been impacted. This includes those working from home or on the front lines. Specifically, nurses, for example, have seen how the COVID-19 pandemic has altered the world.
Brendan Lawrence is on site to our first story highlighting how Mercy Health nurses have been affected by the virus this year.
Thanks, Hannah. For months, nurses have seen head-on what the virus has brought to this world. Nurses have been handed a deadly virus in which millions have needed treatment. With hospitals seeing a great increase of patients needing attention, their workload has been impacted. Nurses from Mercy Health have seen how COVID-19 has affected the Grand Rapids area. Ryan Weingarten tells us more about their everyday work life.
Every year, nurses face new challenges, but this year has been especially difficult. With COVID-19 getting worse than ever, it can be difficult for nurses to stay on top of things. We were able to sit down with Tracy Rosenberg, a nurse at Mercy Health, and ask her about how she's feeling with everything going on.
There's no end in sight right now, so we know, like, even though that we're tired, there's no break. We are just being stretched to the absolute max and trying to manage all of that. It's mentally exhausting. And knowing that we got to come back tomorrow for another 10, 12, 16-hour shift, and there's no end.
As Tracy gets into some more details of what her and her coworkers see each and every day, we are able to tell the amount of stress it puts on these nurses.
Watching my colleagues have feelings of failure. We're working so hard to help so many people, and we're not winning.
With hospitals at capacity, nurses have been dealing with sicknesses of their own while trying to provide for others during these troubling times.
Currently, the nurses right now, they're experiencing a lot of illnesses of their own. It's hard for us to work under those conditions when we're so short-staffed. And when you're off work because you're sick, you're off for 14 days. That's a long stretch for a nurse.
Tracy has told us what she, as a nurse who sees COVID patients daily, struggled with the most.
Our beds are full. Our floors are overflowing. We just opened up our old facility just to make room for some of these patients because we are completely overloaded. We are running out of supplies. We're running out of ventilators. All those things that we talked about early on are happening now.
With nurses dealing with enough of a workload at the hospital, Tracy tells us more of what she has taken to a personal level and how the pandemic has affected her.
Trying to stay positive, cheering for each other. When we do get someone off that ventilator, when we do send somebody home, when we do return them to their families, those wins, we celebrate. We celebrate those, and when we can help somebody through there, that's still the good stuff.
And with that, we thank nurses all across the country for putting others before themselves and working tirelessly during this pandemic. This has been Ryan Weingarten with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
It's incredible and mind-blowing the amount of work and commitment nurses have put into overcoming this pandemic. It's for them and those on the front lines that are getting the world to a safer and healthy state.
As Ryan said, we thank them for their dedication in risking their lives to help others recover. Coming up in Beyond the Rock News, we'll learn more about what the COVID-19 vaccine does and how effective it is. All this and more is soon to come. Stay tuned.
Every day, our hands touch object after object. Objects that don't get washed throughout the day.
We don't realize all the things we touch. Our hands carry bacteria and germs that can be transferred onto objects and those who touch the same things. Washing your hands with soap and water can prevent you and others from getting sick. Wash up.
Welcome back to Beyond the Rock News. Before the break, we discussed how the COVID-19 vaccine is being distributed all over the world, with many already taking the next step in being fully vaccinated.
In Michigan, more and more people every day are deciding to get the shot. But what exactly is in the vaccine and who has access to it? And most importantly, what does this vaccination prevent?
Beyond the Rock learned more insight on this newly developed treatment.
It basically provides you with an immunity. Your immune system, your body have a defense to fight it if it gets exposed to it.
Getting COVID-19 is something many individuals fear, but with recent medical technology, the COVID-19 vaccine has been developed.
The efficacy is about preventing serious consequences from COVID-19. And so that's what the main factor is with this vaccine is stopping severe infection.
With this preventiveness, the vaccine is now 95% effective. So far, certain groups can get the vaccine.
1A was really all of the healthcare providers, frontline workers in healthcare, people who live in congregate care facilities like nursing homes, some other essential workers like first responders.
Group 1B, those 65 years and older and school personnel have been in the process of getting their vaccine. This also includes essential workers in the restaurant industry.
CDC guideline phases is just a recommendations, and it is based on your local states and local county in terms of where they're moving those phases.
As of April 5th, 2021, the eligibility for the COVID vaccine opened up to those 16 years and older.
Those individuals will not have to quarantine. So you have to be fully vaccinated, receive 2 doses of the vaccine. You have to be at least 2 weeks after that second dose of vaccine. And as long as it's within 3 months of that second dose, then you can avoid quarantine.
With those having the privilege of getting the vaccine raises the question, can they still get the virus?
All vaccines aren't 100% effective. We talk about 95% effectiveness. And so there is still that chance that, people could still get sick from the vaccine, that could still, proceed to severe, illness. But really, it's a pretty high efficacy.
Getting back to normalcy is one of the highlights the vaccine provides, but determining when the rest of society will get the vaccine involves many attributes.
This is a free choice. People don't have to take it. It's not required. Some employers may look to require it.
The vaccination process has been effective thus far, and we're still in the works for distributing the vaccine to those who want it. For now, this has been Megan Hart with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
As the COVID-19 vaccine continues to be administered, the world is one step closer to pre-pandemic life and what we used to consider to be normal.
Throughout this past year, everyone's life changed in drastic ways. One world that changed completely was education.
Teachers and students across the globe had to make large adjustments to adapt to all of these changes. One particular group of individuals faced very unique and difficult steps in their journey.
The special education programs and their students, in many circumstances, had more of a difficult time adjusting due to the real need of in-person guidance.
However, it was not an easy road to travel. Zoe Hazelwood tells us more.
Thanks, Hannah. This classroom is one of the many classrooms around the world that was altered during the pandemic. The classroom setting and instructions were just not possible during the 2020-21 school year. Yet the special education teachers still found a way to teach their students, a way that made their students thrive and succeed. Before this pandemic, many teachers and students took school in person for granted. Throughout this time, teachers have had to overcome many different challenges of remote learning. One group in particular with more unique challenges was the special education program.
Through quarantine, some of our kids did really, really well with it, and some kids really struggled not having that face-to-face interaction.
Not getting that face-to-face interaction with the students was the biggest challenge for Mr. Crimp.
It was different in the way that a lot of our students kind of require that one-on-one time that they weren't able to get really through virtual. Having to explain everything virtually and then just hope that they get it was kind of difficult, so definitely having it back in the classroom is better.
Yeah. Mr. Crimp, but more importantly the students, were beyond excited to get back in the classroom.
We were actually able to come back a bit earlier than a lot of the gen ed kids. We were able to come back in the classroom with our kids last week, which was pretty awesome. So.
From another perspective, we were able to learn more about the remote learning from the Springer family.
This is our daughter, Libby. She's 11 years old. She goes to a special school in Ionia County.
The school Libby attends is a unique school that helps kids with special needs. Libby is in a class with kids that have cognitive impairments.
She was on quarantine from March until the end of September. She was doing school remotely. The teacher was sending videos, which was kind of nice. It was videos of her reading different stories and doing different activities. That way Libby could kind of interact or at least see some familiar faces, which was nice.
The once-a-week Zoom meetings were very helpful for Libby.
You know, it was kind of hard to keep her focused. But again, we're not trained in those specialties.
Over the quarantine, Libby and many other students missed the opportunity to interact with friends and teachers every day.
She likes the socialness of being at school. That's something you missed, wasn't it? Bus.
While the rest of this year is still uncertain, these students are grateful for their families' and teachers' support through whatever may come. I'm Marley Haberly with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
The teachers and students didn't let the pandemic come in the way of their continued achievements. They were resilient in the problem solving.
They were a perfect example of education overcoming the difficulties COVID-19 has brought.
Coming up on Beyond the Rock News, rapid testing has become consistent protocol in sports. We'll find out more from our local high school, Rockford, and the specific measurements rapid testing has. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
I mask up for my brother because he has type 1 diabetes.
I mask up for my grandma because she's recovering from breast cancer.
I mask up for my dad because he has stage 5 kidney disease.
I mask up for my elderly mother, who is a cancer survivor and who is struggling to live a healthy life.
I wear a mask for my grandpa so my grandpa doesn't get sick.
I mask up for others
because their reasons
matter too.
That's why we.
That's why we.
That's why we.
That's why we mask up.
A tool that we've been using to test our athletes that are in the fall playoffs.
That was Charlie Weaver, a trainer at Rockford High School. He is one of the vital people athletes go to for injury, recovery, prevention, but most importantly, this year he has been one of the main people who are involved in the rapid testing process at the school.
For athletes to play their sport, a COVID-19 test is needed. Weekly, the test is given to each individual. With hundreds of athletes playing per season, the process has been efficient and effective.
I sat down with Charlie Weaver as he explained this process.
As fall sports try to finish out their season, COVID-19 has faced athletes with many challenges regarding quarantine and pauses on games. This being said, MHSAA and the Health Department released a statement saying that in order to practice and participate in games, athletes must be tested through the rapid testing pilot program. We were able to sit down with Charlie, a trainer here at RHS, and see the process they went through with athletes during these times.
Rapid antigen testing is a quick test that we've used to help detect respiratory illnesses. It can help detect SARS and COVID. It's just a tool that we've been using to test our athletes that are in the fall playoffs.
As Charlie takes us through the routines of prepping for setup and for the athletes to be able to test themselves, we see what a process it's been.
About 12:45 hits, we have to double check, make sure we have enough tests in each station because we do have 6 stations to where we can test 9 athletes at a time.
Charlie also tells us what his biggest concern with rapid testing was.
The big concern coming in was the fact that the accuracy of the tests, and it said there was a 20% false positive, but in all honesty, we did not have that occurrence one single bit.
Charlie would like to leave us with this.
As far as our Rockford athletes, I would just like to say, thank you very much for your time and diligence because our kids actually did a great job. They knew what they had to do. They took care of their business, didn't complain about it, knocked it out, and went on about their business, which helped us out a ton.
This has been Anna Carpenter with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
The rapid testing process has been a long road this year, but has gone smoothly in detecting those who have tested positive for the virus.
It sure has been helpful for sports and their seasons. Sports this year wouldn't be possible without utilizing this resource.
That's for sure. COVID has brought challenges to not only sports, but to classrooms and hospitals around the globe. As we have seen, the frontline workers have been in the process of fighting this pandemic. For now, society is taking life day by day. Until then, that's all we have for this episode of Beyond the Rock News. Once again, I'm Hannah Butzer.
And I'm Anna Carpenter. As the pandemic changes, we'll keep you updated for more. Stay tuned and keep safe. We'll see you next time.